Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, the Superman fan broadcast brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com. In this, our November 15th, 2021 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including Henry Cavill, what he's been saying, what he's been doing, a new photo of him that's been released. We're going to be talking about the finale to Supergirl, the series finale, the latest comic books, and so much more. We're also going to turn to you to ask for your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss. And to let you know how all that works and how you can get involved in tonight's show, let me introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Michael Bailey. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Doing well, and yourself?
I can't complain yet.
Not yet.
Yet. Exactly. No, I'm doing fine. I just had the last 3 days off, so generally now I'm just exhausted from having 3 days off. But no one wants to hear about my 3 day weekend. They don't want to hear about how I'm doing. They want to hear about Superman because the people watching Superman Homepage Live, we want to hear from the people watching us live right now if you've found the new feed, which looks like at least one person has done so far. So if we don't have a whole lot going on in the show, about halfway through, we like to take calls. And how do we do that? Well, it's really simple. First, you're going to need Skype. Go to Skype, search for Superman Homepage, and message us if you'd like to be on the show. Now, a couple of things, and these are important. One, wait for us to call you. As you can see from us having to go to this new live stream feed, this whole thing is tenuous at best, and that can screw things up. Also, if you're using an external speaker to watch Superman Homepage Live, please mute that before we have you on the air, because we are on a bit of a delay, and that can screw things up.
Yes, indeed. And for those who are tuning in live via YouTube and you found the new feed, we invite you to follow along in the comments. Post your comments, ask questions, chat with fellow fans. Michael and I will keep an eye on those comments and questions as the show goes on, and we'll react to them as appropriate. And feel free to also post a super chat. That's a little dollar symbol there. You click on that, a slider will appear on your screen. You decide on the amount you're willing to donate, and we will feature your comment or question live on the screen as the show goes to air. And thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. We appreciate your support. Well, Mike, it's been an interesting week. We've had the end of Supergirl. We've had things with Henry Cavill pop up. We've lots going on in the world of Superman this week.
Yeah, it's that Henry Cavill thing really kind of surprised me, because I was being very cynical before we started tonight and saying, is that really something people are going to get excited for? And you told me that yes, that is absolutely something people are getting excited for.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's been a big hit this week. People talking about the new photo of Henry Cavill that has popped up online this week. Let's have a look at that first and foremost, because he has been participating in a number of interviews this week. But here is the image of Henry Cavill in the Christopher Reeve costume from supposedly a audition that took place, I believe, for Superman Returns, which he obviously did audition for and try out for. He could have shaven before appearing for the audition. And the costume, I think, is like a replica. I mean, the S doesn't look straight, or maybe he just kind of hasn't put it on properly, the costume. But there is, the buckle doesn't seem to be there. It looks like it's just a yellow strip. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the quality of the photo. One of the boots looks incomplete. Doesn't have the V, front to it. But interesting to see when they put the actors in the Christopher Reeve costumes, considering that they changed the costumes so much when the film that they are part of is actually completed.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they he kept auditioning for Superman films.
Yeah.
It's just like he was, they have the pictures of him in the flyby suit, and then this one for Superman Returns, and then again he apparently put another one of Christopher Reeve's suit on for the Man of Steel audition, because there's the black and white photo. So it's just like I guess the lesson there is keep auditioning, because maybe eventually you'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. No, never give up. Just really interesting to see Henry in that suit. I've seen some really interesting comments in regards to the photo. Some people calling it Superman's driving license photo.
Yeah, well, given that he's unshaven, maybe he should be wearing like the evil Superman from Superman 3 suit instead of that one.
Yeah, look. It's always interesting to see the actors in the different costumes and see what they would have looked like. Obviously, Henry here is not buffed up or hasn't got into shape compared to his final form that he did end up in for Man of Steel. But you can still see that what the directors and the casting people were seeing and hoping to see when they look at these actors in the costumes.
Yeah, they always send these guys to the gym.
Yes.
No one's coming to the audition, like fully buffed up.
No, not
Brandon
unless
Routh didn't. They put him through his paces, and
Christopher Reeve didn't. He was a skinny
Yeah,
bean.
Christopher Reeve definitely didn't. So it's just like, and even I think Tyler Hoechlin said that when he got the role, he had to go to the gym, despite being in really good shape for Teen Wolf. So
Yeah,
it's just there's just something about Superman that you got to get fit.
you got to get into
Um,
special shape. Yeah. So
so
yeah, that's really interesting. As I said, drove a lot of hits to the website this week with people wanting to check out the photo in full, and it's always interesting, as I said, to see the actors before they won the part. So really cool, and that was the image. But as I mentioned, Henry Cavill was the participant of a number of interviews this week, especially one on the Hollywood Reporter, a pretty in-depth interview where it speaks about the upcoming second season of The Witcher, rumors of him playing James Bond now that Daniel Craig is done with his final film, just his busy schedule of all the things that he's got going on, and his desire to play Superman again. Some interesting quotes in here, and some people thought this was a repeat of an old interview, but it's just Henry repeating some of the things that he's been saying for a while now. But he talks about the idea of this Michael B. Jordan production of having a black Superman, and he thinks it's exciting that Superman's far more than skin color. Superman is an ideal. Superman's an extraordinary thing that lives within our hearts. Why not have multiple Supermen going on? Joaquin Phoenix did a wonderful Joker movie, so what if it's not tied to the rest of the franchise? They have multiple Superman comic book storylines happening at the same time. So he's all for a multiverse of Supermen on film.
yeah, and it's nice to hear that, because sometimes people can kind of like reveal themselves
Yeah.
when asked the question.
Yes.
But the cape is still in the closet thing. I mean, it's just again, breaking news: actor still wants to work.
Yeah.
It's just like, of course. I mean, at the end of Superman 3, Christopher Reeve was like never again, uh, and he obviously came back for it for Superman 4. So I don't think it's in the interest of these actors. I mean, Brandon Routh obviously was up for doing it again because he played the character again in the Crisis
Yeah.
crossover. So, you know, when you get the chance to play this character, and more importantly, when you get a chance to get a paycheck, I think most people are willing to kind of strap back in, and I'm not saying that like they're like jobbing, because Cavill especially doesn't strike me as like a jobbing actor. Because look at the different types of roles he's done. From Mission Impossible to what was that movie he did with
Uh,
Army Hammer?
yes.
Uh,
The Man from Uncle.
yeah, Man from Uncle, and playing Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
and all that. So obviously he's a guy that really likes to take on interesting roles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think he's really gotten a chance to play the Superman that he wants to play.
Mm,
He's never come out directly and said that,
no.
but I kind of get that feeling from him that he hasn't gotten a chance to play like Superman at his absolute best.
Yes.
because every time he plays him, he's either like just coming into being,
Yep.
or dying, or coming back from the dead. So.
Yeah, we just haven't had the Adventures of Superman type movie where he
Hmm.
gets to be the full hero, in control of his powers at the peak of his might and doing the things that that we know and love about Superman. So, yeah, it would be really good to see him in that capacity. Let's hope somewhere down the line that gets to happen because he is still in, peak physical shape. He still looks the part. Why not give him a chance? I reckon. But and he says, as you said, that there's an opportunity for growth for Superman to explore the psyche of Superman as a deep and seemingly invulnerable godlike being, but with real feeling on the inside. As he always says, the cape is still in the closet, and let's hope that he gets to come out of the closet. I don't mean that in that sense, but you know what I mean.
No, well, in the meantime, you can always do more thirst trap videos of him building a computer, which apparently people enjoyed.
Yeah, indeed. And some interesting comments from people discussing Superman in the movies. Um, Geiger68 mentioning the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger tried out for Superman back in 1978. He would have been one of the only people who wouldn't have had to have buff up for the role after
Yeah,
auditioning.
yeah, and it's interesting too because I've heard stories that like he probably wouldn't have to buff up, but he might sculpt himself,
Yeah.
because apparently when he was doing Conan the Destroyer, they wanted a certain look, and he disappeared for a couple of weeks and came back with the physique that they wanted.
Mm.
So yeah, but yeah, he would have been fine.
Except for the accent. I don't know if he's ever pulled off a proper American accent, but yeah, heaps of people tried out for the role of Superman. They were trying out people's dentists that were
Yeah.
looking so hard and fast
And that
for
dude's hair, oh my God. When
yeah.
they finally, and like you hear the story and then you actually see the screen test and you're like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch.
They were desperate, but thank God they found Christopher Reeve.
I am, I am the last son of Krypton.
Well, he wouldn't have had to have an American accent unless the fact that he grew up in Kansas. That's the problem. But anyway, we move on. And in some sad news, we sadly saw the announcement of the death of the actor Gavin O'Herlihy, who who played Brad Wilson in the movie Superman 3. Best known as Superman fans in that role, but he obviously played many other roles throughout his career. Supposedly he died back in September 15th, but announcement only really came this last week.
Hmm.
No cause of death has been announced, but he was aged 70. Starred in films like the James Bond movie Never Say Never Again, Death Wish 3. So he's been in a few threequels with Superman 3 and Death Wish 3, and many other films. Was born in Dublin, but he sadly passed away this year, aged 70.
Yeah, he was also in Willow. He
Mm-hmm.
had a role in the miniseries Lonesome Dove, where he played a really evil character. Dana Delaney shared a picture on Twitter of when he guest starred on China Beach
Mm.
with her in for an episode, and the thing that I felt kind of bad because it was saying, hey, I'm gonna miss this guy, but my other thing was, wow, if you're gonna try to get back at Clark for running off with Lana, going after Lois isn't like the worst plan you could have there. So no, I recently rewatched Superman 3 because I guested on a podcast called Superman 3 Movie Minute, and he's really good in that movie.
Mm.
Like he plays a convincing drunk. I didn't really get that when I was a kid, but he's really good, and it made me a little sad to see that he passed away because he had such a broad career. Just you wouldn't even recognize him in Willow. because he's like this like big warrior guy, and it's just like you don't really think of Brad Wilson as like riding a horse. So
So yeah, did he have a big hat on, a big cowboy hat?
no, on that no. He had like I forget, but he had like a beard. He had a cowboy hat in Lonesome Dove.
Mm,
God, he was an evil person in Lonesome Dove.
wow.
Uh,
But nobody's hat would have been as big as the one that Gus
yeah.
was wearing in that scene. Bit more.
The Philly Flash.
Very good. Yeah, so our condolences to his family and friends.
Mhm.
I know it's a few months down the track, but the announcement only just come this past week, so that's interesting the way that has happened. But yeah, it's sad news whenever we lose someone that is part of our childhood.
Mhm. Absolutely.
All right, well, changing direction and moving towards the television side of the world of Superman and Supergirl, more to the fact, the series finale double episode of Supergirl aired on last Tuesday night. You did a review of the double episode, giving it a 5 out of 5, which is generous in my um, estimation. I enjoyed the episode. I loved the cameos and loved seeing all the certain cast members. There were certain elements that I didn't agree with that I wrote about in my Big Blue Report column that just got emailed out today. You probably received it in your inbox this morning. Um, but all in all, you gave it a 5 out of 5. It was a nice way to finish off the series, although I'll go into my issues with it. But what did you like most about it?
Um, that the end actually focused on Kara.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
There is that.
I think that just because of how the show evolved, it was more of an ensemble show than a show
Yeah,
with a main character and supporting characters. And because of that, Supergirl herself could get kind of lost in it.
yeah,
And the fact that everybody else after they took care of the big problem, sending Nixley and Lex off to the Phantom Zone. I was actually kind of glad that they got that out of the way so quickly, because I was just like, wow, are they going to really have 40 minutes of a wedding? And they didn't, but they did.
mm,
And I was shocked that that worked as well as it did, because it gave this very organic way for all of these characters, especially like the scene where Win, James, grown man Olsen, and Kara got to sit down and kind of go, wow, we've been through some stuff.
yeah. Oh,
And it is kind of weird to think that my favorite moment of that is Win basically blaming both of them for everything that happened to him. It's just like you show up in town and suddenly everything's all over the place. Uh, but the fact that Kara basically decided I need to reveal who I am so I can effectively do my job. And also, it was kind of an interesting Kingdom Come move that the thing they came to the conclusion to is like we can't work above these people, we got to work with them.
mm,
And all throughout the season, especially, they've been taking decisions out of humanity's hands.
yeah, true.
I think they did a little too much of the idiot ball in the Gauntlet, because Kara's just like, well, I'm going to absorb all the sun, and that's going to really screw up the Earth, but we'll be able to take care of the problem. And then, like 2 seconds before it's ready to go, she's like, nah, I'm done. And the 5 out of 5 was really for the final episode. It really wasn't for the last Gauntlet,
Yeah,
which was fine, but like, what was the point of that entire sequence? Why
yeah.
did they do all of that just to not do it?
And do you think
But
having absorbed some of that or all of that sunlight that it would have affected her powers in some way, but it didn't. It She just
no,
switched it off and there was no change in her abilities or at all. So it was like, well, that was pointless. Other than to show that people were scared of her for doing that.
but one of the things that I hit on in my review is that unlike Superman revealing himself, Kara revealing herself really does nothing. Um,
Mm,
She
crazy.
kind of had she had a civilian life, but all of her friends are people she works with as superheroes. William's dead, so I don't know if she was really close to a bunch of people at Catco, but she seemed to quit pretty easy there at the end. So her existing as Supergirl doesn't really impose anything on her life that would be a detriment. In fact, it kind of makes everything simpler for her. So
Well,
I kind of like that they did that at the end and that they did it as well as they did.
my issue with the whole revealing the secret identity thing is that it does impact on certain people. I mean, okay, Alex is a superhero in her own right, which is what I said in my column. The reason they probably made everybody within her circle a superhero is so that when she does reveal her secret identity, they can all pretty much take care of themselves because they're all superheroes anyway.
Hmm.
Kelly, Alex, Esme's an alien who's got some powers. So, yeah, but there is her mum, her mother, who is, and that was a really cute scene where she came out firing a gun and said, "I could have been a Kryptonian in another life," and Alex says, "Only in the movies." Um,
Yeah, I had a nerd moment with
yeah,
that too. I'm like, wasn't she on Smallville? Okay, never mind. She played Laura on Smallville. We're just gonna forget that that happened. Okay,
yeah. But it is
not the
Supergirl,
time.
and she was Supergirl, so yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, did she call Clark and ask if revealing her secret identity to the world and everyone knows that they're cousins and knows that Superman and Supergirl are cousins, put two and two together and go, ooh,
Yeah, but I think those shows are so far apart right now that it really doesn't matter.
but
It
Superman
will
is
make
a show, whether you're talking about Superman and Lois, the show,
yeah
or you're talking about Superman just as a character who exists in her universe and is her cousin and has shown up.
yeah I it's the only hiccup. You're absolutely right. I really I don't have like an argument for that. Because if Aunt Cara shows up, that is gonna create some issues. Though you could argue that she's a child of you know Martha and cousin North Dakota, orphaned and taken in by the Danvers. I mean, it was just a completely separate thing entirely. The Danvers and the Kents are obviously related somehow, and that's my no prize.
Fair enough. I did like the fact that they brought in Calista Flockhart as a mystery. Like nobody had heard about that happening, and that was a nice surprise. And it worked well for what her role was. And she kept calling her Kira, and it just that was kind of nice. I like that whole the way that played out. But let's go through the myriad of questions that have been popping up in our comments as we've been
Yeah.
discussing this. John Patrick Van Pelt especially. To start with says, why do Andrea and Supergirl think that the death of William Day is their fault, even though it was a trap by Lex Luthor? Well, it was only because of Andrea revealing that all of Lex's innermost thoughts from his diary, his whatever compendium, whatever it was that he had, and writing it down as it was William Day's article,
Hmm.
that put him on as a target for Lex. Lex wasn't going to kill him until Andrea wrote about Lex's diary as William Day. So it is Andrea's fault directly.
Yeah, no, she got him killed.
Exactly.
And there's no argument of that. Kara is going to feel responsible because she feels responsible for everybody.
Yeah, and
You
she
know,
brought him into their circle of super friends to write about the super friends. So it was her idea to have him there.
and she wanted to stay behind from the engagement party, but she finally went and was having a good time, and it was at the party. It was during the party that Lex and Nixley broke in.
Hmm.
So, ultimately Lex is responsible for the death of William Day, but and I don't blame Kara at all. But yeah, Andrea, wow, that you know, naming an entire thing after him, that's like part one of your penance for
Yes,
this.
exactly, exactly. That's not nowhere near enough of a paying of your debt. So questions is does Esme have some hidden power other than the having the love totem. Yes, she's an alien. She has always exhibited these powers from the very beginning. That's why she couldn't
Yeah,
find
she's a
herself.
mimic.
Yeah, that's why she can have powers of whoever's near her, which is why she's finding it so hard to find a foster home in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, did Lillian do the right thing telling Nixley about Lex? Well, Lillian does what is best for her or what she thinks is best
Yeah.
for her. Whether it's the right thing or not is really neither here nor there. She doesn't care about doing the right thing. She just does what she thinks is best for the Luthor name.
Yeah, she only told Lena about her that she knew about her heritage right when she was dying. So
Yeah, exactly.
Lillian's a terrible person.
Oh, 100%. Exactly. Um, what do you guys think of Orlando Davis' speech to the people of National City and helping Supergirl to figure out what to do? That was a bit hokey. Um, but I guess it was a good use of his character because they'd introduced him and he needed to do something.
My problem with it actually is solved by it's what they were going to do anyways. The whole point was for Kara to serve as an inspiration for people to do things for themselves. Thing is I don't watch a show to watch humanity save itself. I watch this show because I want to see Supergirl save the day. Now that's a very like two-dimensional way of looking at it, and I am capable of seeing what they were trying to do, but it just seemed like at every turn it was just like Supergirl isn't the one solving this problem, but that's the point. It's a whole fall down a rabbit hole at that
Yeah.
point, just go into despair.
It was an interesting visual cue that they used where everyone went black and white to show that they were.
Yeah,
It obviously wasn't a realistic thing that the color was being drained out of them because the sun was going, but it was a way of showing everybody, to the audience, that these people had lost hope and had no, you know, future or nothing positive about, no color in their life.
yeah. I thought we were going into Pleasantville, but you know,
So it was just a visual cue for us to look at. But what do you think of Kara? Should she take up Cat Grant's offer of becoming the editor in chief at Catco? Well, obviously she didn't, and that was the whole point. Was that she decided that she's, or did she? I mean, she's just becoming Supergirl and outing herself. She wasn't really committing to anything other than being out in public.
yeah. I don't see how you could be the editor in chief of Catco and Supergirl. It seems a bit more of a conflict. I mean, not no more of a conflict of interest than Clark Kent writing stories about himself. But at that point, no one knows that. So, but if you're aware of it, it's
Yeah.
just I don't think you can be a media figure and a superhero.
And wasn't that the whole point that she didn't feel like she could do either job properly
Yeah.
because she was dragged in two different directions? Which, to be fair, on Kara, Andrea wasn't the best person to be measuring yourself up against as far as expectations
No.
are concerned. So, like, just because Andrea didn't feel like you were doing your job properly, I don't think that she was the best benchmark to be going, you know what, my boss is right.
Yeah, that's yeah. Andrea bought her way into that role. It's
Mm,
not like she was hired to do that job. It was just what she was a convenient character to fill that slot for the writers, really.
yeah. And how good was it to see Melissa and Jeremy Jordan singing together? That duet was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching that and I'm like, I'm just seeing why he left the show because he was way too talented. It's not like he's above the show. I'm not saying that in like an egotistical way. It's just that man is way too talented to play the tech guy.
Yeah.
Um, it's just it was I was just like, oh, okay. And it was really nice, her singing at a wedding where, doppelgangers from an alternate Earth don't attack in the middle of it, like in Crisis on Earth X. Speaking of that, wow, bringing back Parasite and the Red Tornado as some of the ghost villains that we're fighting, I was just like dragging them all out right there at the end. This is what you
Right.
do in the last episode.
Exactly. The song was "We Belong." Who did the original version?
Laura Branigan?
Yes, I think you're right.
I think it was Laura Branigan.
I'm just gonna check that.
I will say this with definitively too. if Laura Branigan did sing it, she did the best version of it because Laura Branigan does the best version of any song that she sings.
Yes, it's oh, is it? Yeah, it's Laura Branigan. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
Pulled
been
that out.
yeah, it's well done. It's been covered many times, especially by people like Pat Benatar and many others. But I'm just pretty sure it's Laura Branigan. Yes, We Belong Together, Laura Branigan. Originally released, I'm trying to think, in 1982, I think. So yeah, it's an old song. So
2 years before the people singing it were born.
all right. So thank you, John, for all those questions. How are we going to be discussing the Flash Armageddon Part 5 crossover? Yes, we'll be doing that, and we've got some details on upcoming episodes, which I will be going through shortly. We'll leave the Supergirl series finale right there for now. We're at the halfway mark of our show. It's going to be weird not talking about Supergirl after 6 years of doing so. It is done. It is finished. We may hear about Melissa Benoist, donning the costume again for an appearance in Superman and Lois. We never know, but she's up for it. But it's just going to be kind of weird that we're leaving it behind. It's done.
Yeah, it's a little sad. I mean, but like I wrote in my review, I'd rather it go out on a high note.
Yes.
Than just continue to the point where we're glad that it's being put out of its misery.
Yeah, or rather than doing a Lois and Clark and leaving us with a cliffhanger that we just never know.
Never gets resolved because by season 4 no one cared.
Yeah. Although, kind of leaving Supergirl out there, revealing her secret identity does leave some stories left untold that we would like to see of how that impacts on people, but
and I was completely wrong. I thought she was going to go to the future, but that did not happen.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, we didn't really see. I mean, a lot of the cameos too, just quickly finishing off from the Supergirl discussions, were somewhat pointless. Having Mon-El turn up, who was this big love of her life, and they were kind of just, thank you for helping me, and and then that's it. No.
I'm going to go back now. It was really great seeing you, but I got things to do. I'm not coming to the wedding either.
No, by the way, I've got nothing to wear. I didn't bring my suit with me back from the future. But anyway, I thought that was kind of pointless. But Jimmy and Win and that discussion that they were able to have at the reception of the wedding was a nice way of, kind of touching base with all the adventures they'd had together, which was nice. But that's the Supergirl series finale done and dusted. And thank you, Michael, for doing all those reviews for us for quite a huge chunk of that last couple of seasons.
Yeah, it was a couple. It was like 2 or 3 seasons. Wow, I didn't even realize that. I just type it out and send it off. Put it in the mild mannered reviews folder in my on my hard drive.
Very cool. All right, we're over the halfway mark of tonight's show. We've got some more TV stuff to discuss, including that 5-part Armageddon crossover in The Flash. We've got comic books to discuss and so much more. We'll be back right after these messages.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
If you're enjoying Superman Homepage Live, then please like and share this video with your family and friends. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can click on the bell to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. You can also join our YouTube membership program, just click the join button below. Or you can become a patron and support our website by going to patreon.com/Superman Homepage.
Look, a up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer. I'm the voice of Superman in Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Insiders say Lex Luthor to cut nation's power. Superman overpowers Lex Luthor. Alienware powers the nation.
Alienware. Embrace the power.
And we're back on Superman Homepage Live, where, as I mentioned, a few more things on the television side of the world of Superman to discuss, including a really good 25th anniversary interview article on DCComics.com celebrating the 25th anniversary of Superman the Animated Series, with comments from Tim Daly, Dana Delaney, Clancy Brown, and voice director Andrea Romano as they reminisce about their time in Metropolis. And Tim Daly talking about the difference between his voicing of Superman and Clark Kent, saying that Clark is a little lighter than Superman by definition. It's a totally different voice, but it's also an attitude. They're quite different characters in a weird way, but I didn't try to disguise my voice. It was more of an attitude.
Yeah, that's accurate. I didn't really notice much of a difference between the two. But having said that, it's kind of nice that the show's getting some attention, because I've always felt that it's, between Batman the Animated Series and Justice League, it kind of gets forgotten.
Yeah, great.
And you really don't get Justice League without Superman, the animated series. A lot of the groundwork was laid there. So, and it was really funny. Somebody, I don't know, one of my friends on Twitter was just like, you look at pictures of Tim Daly from that time, he could have played the character. I'm of the opinion that basically the entire voice cast could have stepped into the live action, to their characters in live action, just very easily, especially Dana Delaney as Lois Lane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it would have been interesting to see Clancy Brown as a bald Lex Luthor. He's a pretty domineering figure too.
Yeah, I was about to say, you got a bit of that in Highlander when he shaved his head, so you kind of preview there. But yeah, no, he is how I figured out that Jason Statham is not as tall as I thought he was, because he was in that Homefront movie, and they're in a scene together, and I'm like, my God, he is towering over that man.
And hearing Dana Delaney saying that playing Lois meant a lot to her because she grew up watching the Adventures of Superman TV series when she was 4 years old. She says, I bought the comic when Lois had her own series. It was 10 cents and I would buy it every Sunday. For me to audition for Lois Lane was huge.
Yeah, I remember when the show was about to premiere, in one of the interviews, I think it was in Wizard, she talked about how, somebody said, and Dana Delaney is Lois Lane, and she had always wanted to hear that. So it's like I've always said, it's not an obligation that they like these characters, but it's always kind of nice when they do.
Exactly. And interestingly, Clancy Brown reveals that he actually auditioned for the role of Superman, and then Andrea was like, hang on, try read as Lex and see how you go for that. And he was like, okay, because he's always played the villain. It would have been nice if there's to try to be the hero for once, but he just has that voice about him that he's always playing the villain role.
Yeah, even like in the Marvel, he was on that Hulk Agents of Smash as the Red Hulk, who's not a villain, but he's not really a hero either. So, and of course, Mr. Crab from SpongeBob SquarePants, which will never cease to not make me laugh. I will chuckle about that every time my wife watched that show a lot when we first started dating, so it was kind of funny to discover that's who that was.
That is crazy. All right, getting back to the we'll call it the Arrowverse, I guess they still call it. The Flash upcoming new season 8, starts off with his 5-part crossover event called Armageddon, and Kyla Lee, who plays Alex Danvers in Supergirl, will be appearing in her Sentinel superhero capacity. We have episode descriptions for part 2 and 3 now. Part 2 reads Despero, or you say Despero?
I think it's Despero.
Despero, okay.
Or Despero. No, I think it is Despero, because Despero was how they said it on Justice League.
Yeah. And kind of the way you say desperate, so Despero. Despero warns the Flash that great tragedies will befall the speedster and cause him to lose his mind. Once that happens, Armageddon will begin. Determined to prove Despero wrong, Barry doubles down on proving his innocence, but a devastating revelation from Iris pushes him to the edge and sends him to seek counsel from Black Lightning. Then, in part 3, Barry meets Black Lightning at the Hall of Justice after things take a dire turn with Despero. Iris suspects something is off with Despero's vision of the future, so she seeks help from a powerful ally. Javisha Leslie, Kyla Lee, and Osric Chow guest star.
Yeah, I honestly think I'm going to wait for all of this to come out and watch it all at once. I don't know. Yeah, the fact that I'm not reviewing them is kind of nice too. That I don't have an obligation to watch it, the week it airs. Yeah. But no, it's a cool idea. Again, I'm baffled that they're doing this and then waiting 2 more months for the rest of the season to come out. That's really strange.
Yeah, well, these will air back to back, week after week. Obviously the first part is November 18th, 17th, and then whatever that
17th.
Tuesday. Yeah, and then November 23rd, and then November 30th. These 1, 2, and 3 that we've read out, and so obviously continuing December 7th and December 14th will be the conclusions to the parts 4 and 5 of this 5-episode crossover event. So looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of the Flash TV series. Looking forward to season 8, and these 5-part crossover events are always pretty cool.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, getting into the comic book side of the world of Superman. This past week, Action Comics 1036 came out, and it was a big one because it connected for a lot of fans who were confused about why in some comic books Superman seems his normal, healthy, younger self, and in some other comic books he seems to be weaker, grey-haired, and there's a disconnect there because we saw him go off to Warworld, and we saw him in the kind of kind of like a gladiator type outfit, and he's got grey hair, and he doesn't seem as powerful, and now he's headed to Warworld. So how much time has passed between those stories and these stories? And 1036 Action Comics reveals that since the rift that Superman and his son John have been fighting in recent issues, the radiation poisoning that came out of that rift has weakened him and sent him looking grayer and older, and it was only due to the powers of I'm just kind of getting my notes here from Enchantress and Manchester Black, and the way that they make Superman seem younger to everyone around him. It's like a kind of a magical mirage, if you like, so that Superman doesn't seem less weak and less powerful to a lot of people, because they would lose hope and things would seem to be, hopeless. So it was a specific choice by them and by Superman to have them do that, so that he would still be the beacon of hope for many people. But getting to Warworld, the people there, the villains of Warworld have washed away this this mirage, if you like, and Superman is now seen the way he actually is at the moment due to this depowering from the radiation from that rift that Amanda Waller was responsible for, which Superboy or Superman, the younger Superman, thought would be the end of his father.
That's more complicated than I thought it was going to be.
There's a great article written by James Lance at our website. I probably haven't done it justice trying to go off the top of my head, but if you want to read it in full, it's all outlined there. Gives you the comic books you need to read to get into the continuity of it all, and check it out. It's a really, and then I did a video of it. If anyone can't be bothered reading, I did a video of the article. So make sure you check that out. It is the
Can't be
internet.
bothered reading.
It is the internet. The age we live in.
Philistines.
Yes. Quickly, before we get into any more comic book stuff, do the fan favorite and history segments. Thank you, John, for reminding me about the fan favorite questions segment. Thank you for that super chat, reminding me about that right there. I will get into that right now. Here is our intro. All right, what was our fan favorite question from last week, Michael?
Why is Superman your favorite character? And Stephen Marshall wrote in, as a child, spoke as a child, I played as a child, but when I no, that's Corinthians. As a child, I was drawn to Superman by the powers and his leadership qualities. I've often drawn to leader-like characters in various media. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that the core reason Superman is my favorite character is because of his core morals and values. I try to be like Superman as much as I can, even if I don't always quite make it. Superman is the embodiment of the best of the human race, even if he is Kryptonian by blood.
So well written. That's a great paragraph there. Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate that answer. John P. Vanderpelt wrote in saying, growing up, I always enjoyed watching Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman, on Sunday nights with my family in the early 90s. Then usually after I had my morning breakfast on Saturday mornings, I would watch Superman the animated series on Kids WB. And as I got older, I started watching Smallville and later on The Flash and Supergirl, for which I enjoy now as a young adult, and getting to discuss all these wonderful things now on the weekly Superman homepage live show each week for about 5 years now and moving forward, including Superman the movies, alongside visiting Metropolis, Illinois for the annual Superman celebration, which I've done for 3 years, 2015, 2016 and 2018. I'm hoping sometime in the future I can visit Metropolis, Illinois for the annual Superman celebration, and that is the reason why I love Superman as a hero. Thank you, John.
Jack Rocha writes, Superman is not only selfless, but as the original superhero, he is a symbol for all of us. Jane Addams, wow, we're getting deep here. Jane Addams writes about the failure of real-life heroes and what we become, and that we become better individuals when we do not rely on the examples of others to guide our decisions. This is where Superman comes in. He can be a true heroic symbol because he does not have the faults that we have. It takes effort to be selfless. It is easy to be selfish and driven by hedonistic tendencies, but we can be inspired by the Man of Steel to be better.
Very nice. Geez, these responses are really well thought out. And lastly, we have Ryan Ignatius Pratt, who says, this is a very difficult question to answer, but I shall take a crack at it. I think Superman is my favourite comic book hero because he represents the best of what we as humans aspire to be. For as Batman once said in JLA 80-page Giant number 1, Superman is the best of us. And in his role as Clark Kent, at least since Crisis on Infinite Earths, we're able to connect with the Man of Steel in his all-too-human journey of discernment and discovery of how to live as such a paragon of virtue. He is, as a result, a character that is both aspirational and relatable. One thing that I can look up to and relate to, I like the real life saints and heroes of human history. Very well said. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you everyone for those responses. That's fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, it was really well thought out.
Yeah, and for me, why people say why Superman, I just say because, simply put, he does the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I similarly for me, it's always that he is a character whose first instinct is always to use his abilities to help people. It's why I think certain people have a hard time kind of wrapping their head around the character because they themselves cannot wrap their head around somebody that would have all of those powers and still use them for the betterment of mankind. But here's a character, whether, over the various iterations, whether maybe he's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline, maybe, or the inspiration from being raised by, his Earth parents. I mean, it is either in Action Comics #1 or Superman #1, where they have that one panel where they're like, you got to hide what you can do, but one day you've got to use those powers to help mankind. And I don't know why that's so hard for people.
Yeah, it should be something that we should all be aspiring to do, even just being as normal people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, but our next fan favorite question is a little bit less
deep.
Yeah, easier for people to respond to, and it is, who is your favorite Jimmy Olsen and why? So simply get involved in the fan favorite question segment of our show. Email address is there, scrolling across the bottom of your screen, info@supermanhomepage.com. Email us to let us know who is your favorite Jimmy Olsen and why. We will read out.
Why is it Jack Larson?
We'll read out all the responses we get when we return to this segment next week. All right, moving on. Here is This Week in History.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bars of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
All right, I've actually got to read things, so I had to put my glasses back on. I was trying to get away from that. But this week in history, we go back to 1941, where we have two books. One is World's Finest Comics #4, where Superman, Batman, and Robin are all skiing. That seems like an excellent use of their time. And the Superman story in this one was Superman with the Case of the Crime Crusade. Also, a couple days after that, you had Action Comics #44, where Superman, despite fighting Nazis on the cover, the story itself was the caveman criminal, which was very common for DC at the time. They would often have their characters fighting in the war on the covers, but not inside the pages. Jumping ahead to 1951, we have Adventure Comics with the Superboy story, The Laws That Backfired. I actually really like that Winslow Mortimer cover. It's kind of a... These covers always kind of make me laugh a little bit. Jumping ahead to 1961, we have Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, #30. Two stories in there when Superman abandoned Lois Lane. Laurie Lamaris was always kind of a thorn in the side for that one. And also Superman's Secret Family, which is great. Oh, man, they were terrible to Lois in that book. Jumping ahead to 1971, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, #145, still continuing and getting near to the end of the Jack Kirby run on this, where you had, I like it says Brigadoon. That's a nice little play on words there. And I'm not surprised, given that Jack Kirby was involved. 1981, The Phantom Zone #2, which was a really good series. I really recommend people checking that out. It's available in trade paperback. It was dark for 1981. Also that same week, Superman Family #215, where Supergirl is apparently fighting somebody with her costume and worse hair. Is that William Catt playing Supergirl in that cover? I'm not quite sure on that. That joke didn't land. Okay, going to 1991, we got Superman #63, which guest starred Aquaman, who has long hair and Superman doesn't. That's kind of a switch there. If I'm also remembering correctly, that was the issue where it was revealed that Laurie Lamaris is actually alive, which they would play with about 5 years later. Jumping into 2001, this is kind of weird because we're into the January 2002 cover dated comics. We have Adventures of Superman #598, which has a really cool cover by Mike Maringo. But it's that triangle number that gives me a little pause because it says 6, and that should be 2. You can really tell that this is the end of that era because they didn't care. Jumping ahead to 2011, you have Supergirl #3 with The Truth About Krypton. and Young Justice, which tied into the animated series, number 10. In the real world, really quick, we have on the 14th, which was just yesterday, Elliot S. Maggin was born in 1950, former guest of one of our shows. November 16th, Henry Lennox, who played the Martian Manhunter. We're just going to call him that from now on. Was born in 1964. Yeah, he was General Swanwick. I know. November 17th is actually kind of weird because in 2001, the Justice League animated series premiered on Cartoon Network, and in 2017, the Justice League movie came out, or a version of the Justice League movie. November 18th, matching Steve's background, Superman number 75 was released, where, of course, Superman died. And on November 20th, both Phyllis Thaxter, who played Martha Kent in Superman the movie, was born in 1921. And Jeremy Jordan, who played Winslow Schott on the Supergirl series, was born in 1984. And that is This Week in History.
Fantastic. Excellent. Very cool. The background of my screen also relates to an article we posted on the Superman homepage website in regards to recent speculation about whether DC were attempting to kill off Superman yet again. And as I mentioned, with the story of him losing his powers or being depowered and looking older, there was a lot of speculation that's what DC was setting things up with John about to replace him as Superman once and for all. But Philip Kennedy Johnson, who is the current writer of Action Comics, came out on Twitter to allay the fears of fans, saying, "I've been hearing from a lot of fans who are scared about all the recent speculation that World is part of some shady backdoor corporate plan to replace Clark as Superman. I don't know how to ease your worries without spoiling what's coming, and I can't do that, but I love Clark Kent as much as you do. Keep reading, and I promise we won't betray you. Superman is forever."
Yeah, Bendis said the same thing. I'm not casting aspersions on Philip Kennedy Johnson whatsoever. I don't trust DC Comics. It's not that I don't trust Philip Kennedy Johnson. I don't trust DC Comics. Yeah, I'm not saying that they're going to kill him and all that, but I never put it past them to do anything with this character.
All right, here's quickly the comic book coming out this week. There's quite a few of them. There's Justice League number 69, which is available in a variant cover. There's Suicide Squad number 9, also available in a variant cover. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow number 5 is out, and this is available in a variant cover as well. The big one that everyone's been talking about for weeks and weeks, Superman Son of Kal-El number 5, which is available in a number of different variant covers right there. And then there's also this trade paperback out this week, a hardcover actually, Justice League Endless Winter, and that's what is out this week for comic book fans. All right, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's show. Before we wrap up, I want to thank everyone for watching Superman Homepage Live. Thanks to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. And thank you to you, our fabulous co-host, Michael Bailey. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Steve.
And thanks everyone in the comments for your participation. Loved reading your comments and your questions. Thanks for being part of the show tonight. Remember, if you tuned in late and want to watch the show again in full, you'll be able to do that at both supermanhomepage.com and our YouTube channel. But Michael and I will be back next week on November 22nd at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or Daylight Time, for another edition of Superman Homepage Live. Look forward to talking to you then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey. Thanks for watching Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.